Every few years, a Bugatti owner posts a receipt online, and the internet loses its mind. $50,000 for a set of wheels. Not the tires, the wheels. And here's the part that breaks people. The wheels aren't even damaged. They're structurally fine. Bugatti tells you to bin them and bolt on a brand new set anyway, because at the speeds this car reaches, fine isn't good enough. That single receipt tells you almost everything about the economics of this car. Because a Bugatti doesn't follow the rules every other car follows. It follows its own, written by people who have never once had to care what something costs. So let's walk through it. Not the top speed, not the horsepower, the money. Where it comes from, where it goes, and the strange fact at the center of all of it. Almost everyone in this story is losing money, on purpose, and it works out perfectly for all of them. Most businesses sell a product for more than it costs to build. Bugatti, for most of its modern life, did the exact opposite, on purpose, hundreds of times in a row. Go back to the Veyron, the car that relaunched the brand in 2005. Volkswagen owned Bugatti by then, and they set out to build the most extreme road car physically possible. 1,000 horsepower, 250 miles an hour, at a time when nothing came close. They pulled it off, and it cost them a fortune. Analysts estimated Volkswagen lost roughly $6.25 million on every single Veyron, about $1.6 billion across all 450 cars. They'd spend millions hand-building each one, sell it for a fraction of that, and eat the difference. 450 times. Why would any sane company do that? Because the Veyron was never really being sold to the person who bought it. It was being sold to everyone who watched someone buy it. The brand works as marketing for its parent company. The prestige spills down onto the mainstream badges, and the scarcity itself is the value. Build too many, and the magic evaporates. Volkswagen wasn't chasing profit on 450 hypercars. They were buying the right to say their engineers built the fastest thing on earth. Hold on to that idea, because it repeats at every level. The Bugatti isn't the product, the position is the product, and people pay staggering amounts to occupy it. Most people assume that if you show up with the money, you get the car. That's how it works for a Ferrari, a Rolls, a house. Money is the key. Not here. The newest flagship, the Tourbillon, replaces the Chiron and drops the signature W16 engine for the first time in 2 decades. Only 250 will be built. Deliveries begin in late 2026, and the price sits around $4.5 million. All 250 were spoken for before a single production car existed. The build cap is locked, and the factory can only make about 80 cars a year. So how does Bugatti choose who gets in? Not first come, not highest bidder. They pick. And they've been candid about their filter. A Bugatti executive once described the average customer like this. They already own more than 40 cars, more than 2 private aircraft, several yachts, plus art and real estate around the world. Which makes it easy, he said, to tell whether a customer qualifies. Sit with that. The requirement isn't, can you afford $4.5 million? Plenty of people can stretch to that. The requirement is that $4.5 million is nothing to you, a rounding error. In fact, Bugatti doesn't even ask for proof of funds. The sales team can tell within a short conversation whether you're real. If they have to check your bank statement, you've already lost. With almost every other asset on earth, money removes the barrier. With a Bugatti, money is just the price of admission to be considered, and the company holds the power the whole way through. It never hands that power back. Not even after the check clears. Buy a normal car, and the transaction ends when you drive off. A Bugatti is the opposite. Paying is where it begins. You're contractually required to have all work done at authorized Bugatti facilities. No independent shop, no talented friend in a garage. And there are only about 10 technicians in the entire world qualified to touch these cars. When yours needs attention, one of them often gets on a plane and flies to wherever it is, because no one else alive is allowed to open it up. Think about your leverage there. You own a multi-million-dollar machine that exactly 10 people may service, and all 10 work for the company that sold it to you. No second opinion, no competitor to undercut the price. One provider, one price, take it or leave it. Which is exactly why the receipts look the way they do. Here's what it costs just to keep one. Not repair a crash, just own it and occasionally start it. The oil change is the famous one, every 14 months or 10,000 miles, and it runs just under $25,000. A used car's worth of money to change fluids. The reason is almost comical. The engine has 16 separate drain plugs, and reaching some of them means removing the grille, the rear wheels, the brakes, and the fender liners. You're not paying for oil. You're paying to take half the car apart and put it back. Tires are built to survive being spun past 250 miles an hour without coming apart. A set costs around $42,000, and you replace them on schedule whether they look worn or not, because a failure at that speed isn't a flat, it's a funeral. Then the wheels, our opening receipt. Because the engine's forces fatigue the metal over time, Bugatti wants them swapped roughly every 10,000 miles, at about $50,000 a set, tossed while still perfectly solid. Do it all in one visit, and the bill lands around $109,000. Before labor, before fixing anything actually broken. 6 figures for a service where nothing failed. You just drove it. And when something does break, a single taillight is over $10,000. A replacement key? $13,547. Wiper blades? About $3,800. Priced like a used motorcycle. Blow up the powertrain and a new engine is over $850,000. With the gearbox another $185,000. The engine alone costs more than the average American house. Bugatti will sell you a buffer, a 4-year extended warranty covering everything from oil changes to cracked wheels, for roughly $204,000. Owners call a $200,000 service plan the sensible choice. That tells you the size of the bills it's shielding you from. One owner who tracked his Chiron carefully landed near $500,000 in maintenance over 4 years, enough to buy a house, just to keep a car alive that spends most of its life parked. None of these numbers is dramatic alone, but that's the trap. They arrive quietly, on a schedule, forever, and they add up to a second fortune on top of the first. The purchase price buys the car. Everything after is rent, paid to the only landlord allowed to keep it running. Here's the belief that keeps the fantasy alive. Bugattis go up. Buy one, keep it clean, sell it later for more. There's a sliver of truth. The Veyron, now out of production, has genuinely climbed. A decent one sits around $1.6 million, and a 2010 example sold at auction in late 2025 for over $2.2 million. A car that sold new north of $1 million now clearing $2 million. On paper, real appreciation. Now here's what the headline hides. That same car spent its whole life being drained by the tab we just walked through. The cheapest Veyron ever sold publicly went for well below its original price, because a Bugatti with a shaky service history is poison. Buyers know a skipped service could mean an $850,000 engine. So the cars that appreciate are the ones with flawless, fully paid-for upkeep. The $500,000 you poured in is the entry fee to the resale bump. Run the honest math. Buy a Chiron new around $3 million. Hold it a decade, feed it somewhere between several $100,000 and over $1 million in service, tires, wheels, warranty, storage, and insurance. Then sell it, generously, for $3.5 million. Did you win? Only if the price climb outran everything you spent earning it, and for most owners, it's a wash at best. The number on the auction block looks like a profit. The number left in your account usually isn't. And there's a cruel twist. The two things that most erode the investment are driving it and bad timing. The two things an owner wants most and controls least. Put miles on it and you trigger $50,000 wheels and a $25,000 service. Hold it while a newer model launches and yours becomes the old Bugatti. The car rewards you for locking it away and punishes you for enjoying it. So if the manufacturer loses money building it, and the owner breaks even at best while surrendering all control to a factory in France, what's actually being bought? The mistake is treating the car as the thing. It isn't. The car is the receipt for the thing. What the buyer really purchases is a position, a seat in a room of a few thousand people that Bugatti curates by hand. Prove yourself a good owner and you get first access to the next car, the truly limited runs, the specs that appreciate hardest, the ones that never hit an open market. You're not buying a tourbillon. You're buying your place in line for whatever comes after it. And this reframes every insane cost. To an ordinary person, a $50,000 wheel is an outrage. To the intended buyer, it's the point. The absurd upkeep is the filter that guarantees no one below a certain altitude of wealth can keep one on the road. The running costs don't threaten the exclusivity, they enforce it. You pay, continuously, to stay in a club that ejects anyone who can't keep paying. So the losses stop looking like mistakes and start looking like the mechanism. The company eats a loss to buy prestige for its parent. The owner eats the upkeep to buy prestige for themselves. Both spend real cash on something that never appears on a balance sheet. The simple fact of standing next to the most extreme object human engineering can produce, and having the world understand exactly what that costs. Can a Bugatti make you money? On paper, occasionally. A great spec bought at the right moment and kept perfect can outrun its own upkeep. A lucky few come out ahead. But that was never the deal, and everyone at the table knows it. The Veyron lost Volkswagen $1.5 billion by design. The owner spends a second fortune to keep a car that mostly sits still. The appreciation that makes headlines mostly evaporates against the cost of earning it. And through it all, one small factory in eastern France holds every card. Who may buy, who may touch it, what it costs to run, and who gets the next one. That's the whole trick, hiding in plain sight on a $50,000 wheel receipt. A Bugatti isn't a car you own. It's a membership you rent, from the only people allowed to keep it breathing, for exactly as long as you can afford to stay in the room. And the ones who keep coming back, who buy Bugatti after Bugatti and never flinch at the tab, worked out the part the fantasy never mentions. They were never trying to win on the car. They were buying the one thing that $4.5 million, and a great deal more after that, can still buy. An invitation to do it all again.